Global diplomacy and federal force all in one day. We're talking about President Trump meeting Vladimir Putin in Alaska with the goal to end the Ukraine-Russia war. Also, he's dropped hundreds of National Guard troops into DC as their local police have also been federalized. We're going to talk about all that today, but real quick, you want to become part of this growing community of truth seekers, then be sure to subscribe to the Civic Trigger. The war between Russia and Ukraine has lasted for years now, with the United States spending more than $100 billion to provide military and financial aid to Ukraine. At some point, we have to ask ourselves, do we still want to fund this war? And I'm guessing that many within the White House are asking the same thing. And it's why it's important that President Trump will have a talk with Vladimir Putin, with him sending the Russian leader a very stern warning.
Russia face any consequences if Vladimir Putin does not agree to stop the war after your meeting on Friday?
Yes, they will. Yeah.
What will the consequences
there will be
be?
consequences.
Sanctions, tariffs?
There will be, I don't have to say, there will be very severe consequences, yes.
There are also questions as to why Zelensky wasn't invited to the meeting in Alaska, although the president has confirmed he was never meant to be included and that he's already talked to him and other European leaders.
How were your calls this morning with European leaders, and was it your call not to invite President Zelensky to your meeting with Putin?
No, just the opposite. No. We had a very good call. He was on the call. President Zelensky was on the call. I would rate it a 10, very, very friendly. No, it was always going to be, I was going to meet with President Putin, and then after that I'm going to call the leaders and President Zelensky. I'm going to call President Zelensky, and then I'll call, probably in that order, the leaders. There's a very good chance that we're going to have a second meeting, which will be more productive than the first, because the first is I'm going to find out where we are and what we're doing.
The optics of this has attracted Trump critics to call him out, one of which is John Bolton. Now, we know that the former national security advisor isn't known for peace, with many saying that he's a warmonger, meaning that he's actually enjoying these different conflicts that the president is working to stop. Here's what he had to say about Trump's efforts.
The question is what Trump really thinks is going to happen in terms of the likelihood of success of a ceasefire effort. I think what he's saying is, if I think that I can contribute to a ceasefire and get the Nobel Peace Prize, then I'll exert the time and energy necessary to do it. But if I don't, then I'm pulling out. Maybe that means sanctions on Russia. Maybe it means aid to Ukraine. Maybe it just means he gives up paying any attention to the situation. It emerges just as murky, I think, as it was beforehand on that point.
Do you agree with Bolton? There is the issue regarding the possibility of land swapping for peace, and we all know that Zelensky has already said that he's not willing to give an inch to Russia, which could indicate that we should expect the war to go on longer. This also means that we could be giving more money and weapons to Ukraine. Moving on, the National Guard have reported for duty in DC. From what we know, they're expected to stay there for 30 days, although the president argued that things are so bad that it could possibly be extended. Democrats have argued that Trump should not get in their way. The problem here is that some Democrats admit there's something wrong in DC. Listen to what a former advisor to Joe Biden had to say.
Well, I think we have to be willing to say the quiet part out loud. And I think as Democrats, it's facing uncomfortable conversations about crime. Look, no one wants to put kids in jail or lock them away for life, but when we ignore a problem, we allow it to fester, and we don't target what the founding issue of the problem is. And I believe for DC, a lot of that has to do with our youth and with education. I mean, DC for 2022 to 2023 had about 40% of kids that faced chronic absentee. So that means they missed 10% or more of the school year. Well, where are those kids when they're not in school? They're outside causing a little bit of chaos. They're raiding grocery stores, drug stores. They're putting entire sections of the city under curfew. And the fact of the matter is, the president is addressing something that is very real. We can live in this city and say it's a beautiful city, and we can also say that we have a chronic issue when it comes to our youth.
It's also expected that federal control of local police could go beyond the 30-day plan. But for that to happen, Congress will have to get involved.
The president's federal takeover of the D.C. police can only last for up to 30 days before Congress is essentially required to step in and either pass an extension or tell him to stop it. The president said today 30 days isn't enough, and he's likely to ask Congress for some kind of an extension and possibly national legislation on policing policy. Overnight, there were more than 40 arrests made as part of the federal takeover of D.C., with more National Guard troops expected on the streets of the nation's capital tonight.
It's likely that Congress will provide an extension. However, I'm a bit skeptical if legislation can be passed regarding policing policy. But what do you think? Is President Trump doing this to protect Americans, or is this an authoritarian move? Let me know in the comments. Also, if you want to get updated on Social Security, US politics, and world news that affects us, then be sure to subscribe. As always, thank you for watching. Keep safe out there.